So one of the most important things we found in the research was the increase in the frequency with which people are using social media to interact with and complain to companies and brands. So when we looked in August 2011, 19% of people were regularly using social media as a means of complaint and brand interaction. Only 8 months later, that had leapt to 36%. And it's interesting to note that that's across the age groups as well. It's not just young people, it's across the age groups. I think what was really interesting was that those 2/3 of those who use social media to interact with brands, to complain and to engage with brands, really believe that it's helped them to find their voice in a way that actually using a call centre doesn't do. What we also found was that 2/3 of people feel that using social media to interact with a brand gives them a much better experience than using a call centre getting stuck in a telephone tree. And a very, very, very small minority felt that the traditional methods were preferable.
I think it's really important for readers that they feel like the problem's been resolved and that brands don't just treat it as a good PR exercise. I get some of my best stories from Twitter and I use it as a really good soundboard for verifying if there's a real issue. One of the most recent examples was with an insurer, Protect Your Bubble. They've been having a lot of problem with delays of their complaints, and just from looking at their Twitter feed I could see that there had actually been a massive problem and that readers were kind of getting really angry that they hadn't had responses.
So at Alienate we put a great deal of effort into humanising our brand, and we've done that across the years with great success. The key thing about social media for us is that the conversation is moving away from what we think, feel and say about ourselves to what our customers think, feel and say about us. Yeah, so the true power of Twitter for us is not in the one-to-one engagement, it's using it as a really effective broadcast medium, so to talk to people when they're out and on the move and potentially involved in a flight disruption. So what we can do with that is really demonstrate that Virgin Atlantic's in control of a given situation, and make sure that we demonstrate that we're responding to people and that we care about them as well, and we'll go the extra mile from a customer service point of view. Does everybody remember the miracle on the Hudson? It gives me nightmares. People were actually tweeting pictures from on board before they'd evacuated the aircraft. So Twitter definitely can know first.
I think the main thing to bear in mind is if a customer cares enough to complain about your service, they also care enough that you can make an advocate out of them. Because if you care enough about that brand that you're going to whinge, then you care enough that really you want to tell people about it as well when you sort it out, that there's something fundamental about the brand that affects you and you want to do, that you want to promote and advocate if you can get the experience right. You've got to view social media customer service as part of a wider customer service journey. Ideally, a customer never gets to the point of complaining because the product's worked beautifully and or the additional information they need is already at their fingertips. They've Googled and it's there for them, or they've received it before they knew they needed it. So by the time that they're tweeting about it, you've already failed to solve the problem they've already got. So essentially it becomes a third line support channel at that stage. So last year we had a particularly severe service outage that was driven by some criminal activity around one of our infrastructure sites. This happened in the middle of the night. I woke up, it's 6 AM, and I've got emails about it. And the way we treated it, because frankly customer service through social media gives us the opportunity to tell our side of the story first and quicker to the customer, was to get tweeting immediately. So our first tweet went out at 6:45 AM saying, we know there's a problem, we don't know what it is yet, but we'll keep you updated. And from that point onwards, it gives the customer confidence that you're treating them in a transparent, open way, and they have confidence that they don't need to talk further to other people about it, they'll get it straight from you as and when they need it.
Brands are experiencing something new in social media because for the first time customer service is being played out in the timeline, and it's available to everybody and they can see it. And it's more important for them to demonstrate a level of empathy that they've never had to do before. Simply put, customer service in the short form social networks like Twitter and Facebook can fall into two things. One is where people are having a great time with a brand, and so they're raving about what a great experience they're having. On the downside, there's also the fact that they might be experiencing problems and therefore having a bit of a rant about it. It's very different to traditional PR, for example, where you'd want to kind of go through a kind of like stepped process of changing somebody from being negative to neutral to kind of an advocate. Social media means that you can literally flip that from being hugely negative to hugely positive by creating a very, very useful interaction between the brand and the consumer. And that's where I see social media playing a huge part in brand reputation.